So I must admit, I'm a little bit nervous standing up here, but it has more to do with the standing than the public speaking. See, I'm quite scared of falling, and I've learned that to prevent falls, 3 points of contact are desirable, but honestly, the more the better. This is only 2. Now, you might think that someone who's scared of falling would not seek to participate in a discipline that might increase the chances of falling, but you would think wrong. I train parkour of all things. So, if you don't know, parkour involves a lot of jumping and climbing and frolicking around in close proximity to unyielding surfaces, like concrete, metal, and hard ground. This seems like a bad idea, right? Why not pick something like Pilates, where you're lying down most of the time? The problem is that parkour is actually fun, and if I had to do Pilates on a regular basis, my soul would die not one, but hundreds of small deaths, so I tend to avoid it at all costs. What you may not know is that parkour and lying down are not as mutually exclusive as you might think. I'll just do that again so you can fully appreciate that. That's the thing about parkour, is that you can make it really whatever you want it to be. You can make it a side flip over a 2-story drop, Brian. You can make it an unusual group plank situation. Cal is here tonight. You can make it skateboarding without the skateboards. You can make it bouldering without the boulders. You can make it tree climbing without the climbing. And you can make it CrossFit without the cult. Ooh, some falling happening. So I could choose to specialize in hyper-low altitude parkour, but there is a masochistic part of me that drives me onwards and upwards, whilst the sensible part is constantly in damage control. So let me show you what this looks like in practice. If I want to do that jump, I'm going to have to leave the ground, and that means 0 points of contact. First up, I'll get out my trusty protractor, do some quick calculations. Then I will consider the implications of the 80 centimetre shift in the Earth's rotational axis between 1993 and 2010. I will use available resources to set up a windsock to measure wind velocity and direction. I will consult the astrological chart, just in case Mercury is in retrograde. Oh yes, and then I will consult with local stakeholders, also known as my friends, to see if they think I can do it. I'll try to remember why this is meant to be fun. And then I'll have a snack, and by this point, I'm usually so exasperated that I will just do the jump, or I scuttle away into the sunset. So this is called mitigating the chance that I'm going to fall. At least that's what I know now. For a long time, I thought I was eliminating the chance that I'm going to fall by controlling the outcome. This, of course, is not possible. But I managed to maintain this self-delusion, not only in parkour, but in other aspects of my life. The problem, which I was vaguely aware of and tried to ignore, was that there's this thing called the unexpected. By definition, you cannot account for it. One day, a cat might fall through the ceiling into the kitchen. True story. Another day, the tram shelter might spontaneously shatter right beside you. Also a true story. And then one day, you might be enjoying a cup of hot chocolate with your squishmallow, and a sinkhole opens beneath you. I'll let you decide about that one. So, as the possibility of chaos became increasingly obvious to me, I became increasingly anxious. Then I had this horrifying thought. What if, instead of avoiding chaos, I went looking for it instead? The current MO wasn't really cutting it, so why don't just swing wildly in the opposite direction and see what happens? Just for fun. I could use my parkour practice as a kind of testing ground to exacerbate the risk of me falling. I cannot overemphasize to you how much I wanted to unhave this thought, but it doesn't work like that. Luckily, I could see the upside. The philosophy of it was mouthwatering. You see, I am an anarchist-leaning queer. You can see me leaning towards anarchy. I wear a lot of flannel and corduroy, etc. And let me ask you, what is more anarchic than seeking chaos? And what is more queer than rejecting dominant definitions of success? Failure is something queers do and always have done exceptionally well, writes Jack Halberstam in The Queer Art of Failure. Under certain circumstances, failing, losing, forgetting, unmaking, undoing, unbecoming, not knowing, may in fact offer more creative, more cooperative, more surprising ways of being in the world. I really wondered what these might be, so I enlisted some friends in my search for disaster, and here are some things that happened. So first up, I meet John in Northcote on Wurundjeri land. John is very good at falling and making it look graceful, but it is also worth mentioning that John's shins are an intricate meshwork of scar tissue. I suppose this is what happens when you've been doing parkour for 20 plus years. Maybe it's just par for the course. Anyway, moving on. So we found this rail next to the skate park and attempted to sow disorder in various ways, like balancing it on it in strange positions, trying to roll over it, trying to push each other off, throwing juggling balls at each other, etc. Then I got bored and thought I would practice a turn vault. Now, a turn vault involves starting on one side of the rail, waking yourself over, and landing on the other side. Now, a key aspect of the turn vault is that at no point should your feet touch the rail. However, I, in true mitigating fashion, was seeking 3 points of contact, and so I put my foot down on the rail, not realizing that my shoes were down from the grass. I slipped and landed directly on my shin bone. Here I am, celebrating wildly as I limp it off. Finally, I had an accident. It had previously been a worst case scenario, but now it felt like everything had been turned upside down. I no longer wanted to smoothly accomplish my objective. I wanted chaos to disrupt my efforts. My shin swelled up, became puffy and sore to walk on. The bruise turned blue, then purple, then yellow, and the more spectacular it became, the more smug I felt. The categories of success and failure only continue to complexify from here on out. So I wanted to try this move that I actually don't know what it's called, so I call it the swishy thing for reasons which will soon become evident. The swishy thing looks like this. You start off looking like you're going to go over the rail, but then, plot twist, you sit down on it and swish back out the way you came. I have historically avoided the swishy thing because it seems far too likely that I'm going to fall backwards and crack my skull open like an egg. So this is the first few times it went the way it always does, is that I yeet myself forwards, because forwards is definitely better than backwards. Then John and I talked a bit more and decided that really the point was to fall off things, so I was going to try fall backwards. This incited minor panic. But I went for it anyway, because that's what we're here for. And somehow completed the move perfectly. As you can see, I am shocked, ecstatic, confused. Had I succeeded or had I failed? I really wasn't sure. You see, my goal had been to fall, but then chaos got in the way and produced accomplishment. Now, I had failed at my goal, which was a success, because that's what we're wanting. So, according to this new value system, I was doing well. But on the other hand, I'd completed this move that I'd never been able to do before. So according to the old ways, the old value system, this was a success, but a failure according to the new one. So here we are. It seems like chaos is interfering in my efforts in a satisfying and tangible kind of way. But then I find out that chaos can kind of just be annoying. About a week later, I'm driving out to Frankston, Bunurong to meet Hamish, and it is raining, and I'm driving along, windscreen wipers frantic, And thinking, perfect conditions, this is excellent. So Hamish is game for this ridiculous endeavour, but like me, they're a little concerned about the whole thing. So we start off on the low rails, because they are literally sopping wet. Start off jumping between them a few times. So we do that, uneventful, until Hamish manages an unexpected slip. Yo, they say. When we're not looking to bail, we bail. Now, I'm happy for them, right? But also, I want to fall. So, we go looking for a wider gap. And I'm thinking this might be the one, because what I'm really looking for is that trademark slapstick slip with the lurch, the windmilling arms, the cry, the spray of water up into the air. This is looking like a good candidate. So, turn around, go for it, and land on the rail. So at this point I'm getting a little bit desperate, so I politely request that Hamish chase me down, so I'm in a wild panic by the time I reach the rail. But this doesn't work either. I just do a little squeak, bounce back onto the tarmac. Tarmac? Tambark. I definitely chose Tambark for a reason. Yes, so at this point I'm pretty annoyed at my incompetence. Despite my strenuous effort, I'm staying very much upright. But then I sat down to write this talk, and I kind of realised that I'd fallen into a new trap right next to the old one. Basically what I'd done is that I'd put falling under success and not falling under failure. Then I'd proceeded to beat myself up for not succeeding to fall. I was back to reproducing my old thought patterns where I tried to control the outcome. But then I wondered, maybe this is another form of chaos, just a less obvious kind. One that could intervene to produce a boring absence of drama. It definitely wasn't the kind I was expecting, and not one that would necessarily look good in a PowerPoint. It was a more secretive kind of chaos, but chaos nonetheless. And that is the nature of chaos. It can't be summoned on command, it can't be dismissed. It's unknowable, and that is the whole entire point. I recently saw this documentary about the life of Genesis P. Orridge, who's a radical musician, artist, queer icon. William Burroughs said to Genesis, "Your job is to short-circuit control." And they spend much of their life circling around this question. I think this was something that I was trying to do with this exploration of falling and failure. I don't think I succeeded in short-circuiting control, and I'm very happy about this because I do believe that any kind of success would have been a failure in this scenario. Because if I'd figured out how to short-circuit control, I feel like that still would have been me trying to exert control, but in a way that was disguised as a surrender to chaos. But on the other hand, if failure's a vibe, then maybe that's its own kind of success. Anyway, we could be going around in circles the entire night, but luckily I have found a way out of this logical trap. And it is to find joy in the absurd. Thank you. Thanks.